You know, having done as many of these videos as I have, you'd think I'd be pretty much numb to everything at this point. I mean, I've done every Twilight movie, the first 2 50 Shades movies, I even sat through every episode of Riverdale, alright? I was pretty sure that I was invincible, but then one day Netflix just had to show up and right in my face. So 365 Days is a Polish movie that came out on Netflix recently to rave reviews. Basically, it's kind of like a social experiment to see if anyone could possibly make 50 Shades of Grey even worse somehow. And slight spoilers, but they definitely succeeded. So let's take a walk. First things first, we gotta meet our main characters. This guy is Massimo, a tall, dark, and handsome Italian mafia boss guy who whispers pretty much every single line in the entire movie. And the girl in our story is Laura, a Polish, fast-talking, no-nonsense executive who makes this face a lot. Now, the thing about her, as you may be shocked to learn, is that recently she's become kind of disillusioned with her boyfriend and she's just looking for some excitement. You know, like every girl in every romance movie since, like, ever.
No i z twoim serduszkiem lepiej, żeby się nie forsowała.
So after a really long, drawn-out intro that goes on for about 15 minutes and tells us basically nothing about anything, we flash forward to Laura going to Italy for her 29th birthday. Now, the first night, she's hanging out with her friends and her boyfriend, everyone's singing happy birthday and, you know, all that stuff that you just love doing when you're almost 30. But she heads out for a second to go to the bathroom, and this is when our story finally gets going.
Are you lost, baby girl?
Okay. You know, I'm pretty sure there's no context in which "Are you lost, baby girl" would not be the creepiest thing any woman's ever heard. But anyway. You know, this is something that happens in every movie, but I always crack myself up thinking about how anyone would actually do this. Like, the girl runs into this handsome man of mystery and then turns her back for 3 seconds and the guy's just like, "Heh." Anyway, so the next day we come to find out that Laura's boyfriend left her by herself from the morning on her own birthday to go and do something that I wasn't really paying attention to. And naturally, she's not too happy about it.
O Jezu, weź się nie denerwuj, dobrze? Przecież wiesz, że z twoim sercem nie powinnaś.
Ty spierdalaj z moim sercem. Obchodzi cię coś bardziej w życiu niż ty sam siebie? Kim ja dla ciebie jestem?
Ja? Ja o ciebie nie dbam?
And then the entire rest of the day, apparently, she puts on her pajamas and wanders around whatever city they're in all night like some kind of 90s music video, until this happens. Well, I'm sure it's all gonna be fine. Now, the next day, I think, she wakes up locked in a castle, which is not a joke, by the way. This is actually what happens in the movie. But then that night, someone comes and unlocks the door, leaving Belle to explore the Beast's castle all by herself. And that's when the movie goes from to
Are you lost, baby girl?
Would you freaking stop? I mean, when I first saw this dude, like, come on, tall, dark, handsome, he's rich. Like, I thought it was gonna be some kind of dreamboat or something, you know what I mean? But then he opens his mouth and just turns into Gilligan. Anyway, so he throws out the baby girl line once again, and the scene keeps going.
Answer me.
Sit down.
I'm not your property.
Sit down. Do you want to know why you're here or not?
Well, I'm just swinging in the dark here, but I'm guessing it's because no one around you is allowed to say no, ever?
What I'm about to tell you is so incredible that
Okay, not to get ahead of you here, but every time a guy says he wants to tell me or show me something incredible, I usually come out of it pretty disappointed, all right? So this better be a real zinger. So Massimo tells us this story about how 5 years ago his dad was killed due to some mafia business, and Massimo was also hurt in the kerfuffle. But apparently before this all went down, he saw Laura on the beach, and he's been looking for her around the world ever since. Yeah, so turns out this entire movie is just one long glorified Craigslist misconnections ad, you know? Like, I mean, this whole thing could have just as easily been like, I saw you in line at Costco, you have brown hair and your cart was full of more bulk ibuprofen than I've ever seen in my entire life. You made eye contact with me for like half a second, so please respond with what color stain I had on my shirt. Anyway, so Massimo's story ends and Laura gives us a pretty reasonable reaction.
Nobody owns me. I'm not an object. You can't have me just like that, kidnap me and think that I am all yours.
I know. But that's why I'm giving you a chance to fall in love with me.
What does that even mean? Now, to prove how serious he is, he gives her an oh-so-generous offer regarding the whole falling in love thing.
You have 365 days. I'll do anything so you can fall in love with me. If next year on your birthday nothing changes, I'll set you free.
All right, so I'm gonna kidnap you and keep you for a whole year, and if you still don't fall in love with me, I'll set you free, cause, you know, I'm such a nice guy.
Stockholm Syndrome, making it work for me.
You know, having covered as many of these kinds of movies as I have, I've noticed that almost every single one of them is like, ladies, imagine your worst nightmare. Like getting kidnapped, having a boyfriend who controls everything about your life and stares at you while you sleep every night, or dating a guy who watches the Fast and Furious movies unironically, whatever. Now imagine if all this stuff happened to you, but the guy was attractive. I've been stuck inside so long, at this point, I'll date anyone. Anyway, so the next morning, Laura wakes up in her room.
How are you feeling?
What is up with this dude? I mean, like, what if Laura had one of those mid-wake-up farts, you know? Like, come on, give a girl some space, all right? So the movie goes on like this for a while, and we keep getting reassured that Massimo has absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Like seriously, this guy makes Christian Grey look like a Disney prince. They keep having these conversations where it's just like, I want French fries. Well, I want chili fries. What? And this is like most of the movie. But anyway, so Laura's slowly starting to come around after she realizes that she literally has no other choice, and she does that thing every girl does, you know, where you just kind of play along and hope not to die.
So what do you actually do?
I do business.
I'm sorry. I just love how these kinds of movies, the guy is always someone who like does business stuff and yet somehow has endless amounts of free time. Like, where do I sign up for that job? But anyway, so then finally Massimo opens up to Laura and we get to know what the point of all this really is.
I'd like you to teach me how to be gentle.
What the heck does that even mean? Is that not just word for word a line from Beauty and the Beast? What is this movie? And of course, Laura's outside reaction is instead of what she's really thinking, which is, why do I gotta fix you? What do I get out of it? I don't got time to fix some sad boy. Go fix yourself. I got things to do. So much like 50 Shades of Grey or any of these other kinds of movies, things just go on like this for a while where there's a lot of back and forth between Massimo and Laura. They keep playing these games with each other and somehow we're supposed to believe that this no-nonsense, down-to-earth 29-year-old business executive is sort of kind of starting to a little bit maybe fall for a guy who says and does things like this.
Are you lost, baby girl? Are you lost, baby girl? You had the bad reaction to the sedative. I didn't know you have a heart problem. That's why I'm giving you a chance to fall in love with me.
Because, I mean, let me tell you, I've tried doing and saying all this same stuff before, and the only thing I have to show for it is, like, now I have to introduce myself to my neighbors. Now, the big turning point of the movie comes when they're on a boat, for whatever reason, doesn't matter, and they have a big fight because earlier, Laura messed up a really big business deal for Massimo. And she gets so upset that she falls off the boat and almost drowns in, like, 4 seconds somehow, and Massimo jumps in to save her.
I'm so grateful that you're alive, but at the same time, I want to kill you.
You saved me.
Thanks God that was so close. Why are you so disobedient?
Now this moment is when Laura realizes that, yeah, you know, like this Massimo guy may have kidnapped her, forced her to do whatever he says, doesn't let her have contact with the outside world, and plagiarizes cheesy lines from 90s Disney movies, but he's nice sometimes, so golly gee, I guess it's true love. Also, just a quick tip, if you do end up watching this movie, I don't care who or where you are, your parents will absolutely walk in the room during this boat scene. But anyway, so now they're all buddy-buddy. Skipping ahead a little bit, due to a variety of reasons, there's some tension among the mafia families, with Massimo having to take over for his dad, and now Laura's kind of like getting in the middle of everything. And long story short, Laura gets sent back to Poland with no communication or anything from anyone for quite a while, apparently. So she catches up with her old friends and gets a total makeover, because, you know, sometimes you just gotta live, laugh, love, you know what I'm saying? And runs into her old boyfriend, and, you know, things are just kind of all over the place for a while.
Nie mamy o czym ze sobą rozmawiać. Nie, powiedziałyśmy już wszystko to, co miałeś do powiedzenia, teraz mnie zostaw samą. Ja chcę zostać sama, do widzenia. Do widzenia.
Well, I don't understand what you two are saying.
But it's rather clear that she wants you to leave.
So then her old boyfriend is all like, harumph, and walks away, leaving Laura and Massimo to once again do the old
Devil's Tango.
And after that's over, we get the emotional climax of the movie.
I don't need 365 days.
Because?
Because I love you.
Excuse me?
And then almost immediately after this, Massimo asks her to marry him, and she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Now, the very end of the movie, I'm just gonna summarize a couple things here. Laura's friend comes to be her bridesmaid, and as they get to talking, we all come to learn that Laura is
Prego.
but she hasn't told Massimo yet.
Kocham cię, słyszysz? Zawsze będę z tobą. A to dziecko wychowamy.
And as they're driving back from trying on wedding dresses, we also learn that a rival mafia family is going to assassinate Laura for whatever reason, probably because she forgot to color her eyebrows too, but hey, that's none of my business. But all the same, that brings us to the final scene of the movie.
Laura? Laura?
And yeah, so that's that. But like, real talk, this movie is maybe one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like this makes 50 Shades look like a masterpiece. At the very least, 50 Shades sorta kinda makes sense about why characters do what they do. But in 365 Days, maybe it's the editing or something, I don't know, but it's just like a bunch of random events told chronologically. But putting them all together in one movie, it just kinda feels like trying to remember a dream you had after you took a little too much melatonin. There's not even really much else to say about it except people will watch anything, I suppose. Now, the thing about this movie, besides the fact that it literally makes no sense, there's no motivation for anyone to do anything, nothing makes sense in this movie. But the thing that really struck me is very strange. So you look at Twilight, and in Twilight, you know, you have this old 100-year-old vampire going after a 17-year-old girl. So, I mean, Bella doesn't really have any personality or anything anyway, but the idea that she's like this young teenager who very easily falls in love with this, you know, vampire guy, like that makes sense, right? And in 50 Shades of Grey, right, you have a 27-year-old billionaire, and then you have Anna Steele, who is 22, I believe. And she's a little bit older, but still, you know, she's in college in the first movie, and she's still young enough that she doesn't really know a whole lot about the world. You have to remember that Christian Grey is her first boyfriend and all that. But this movie, right from the beginning, we're introduced to Laura, and she's this fast-talking, no-nonsense, down-to-earth executive who gets things done, right? And then as soon as she gets kidnapped, she turns into Bella Swan. She turns into a 17-year-old girl, and I mean, you know, sure, she's like kidnapped and she has no freedom and all that, so like maybe you can kind of see it that way, but just the whole story as a whole, right? Massimo is like this mafia leader guy, right? He's running all these businesses. He's a quote-unquote rich businessman. Laura is specifically a very like successful executive, and yet like there's no point in which her being an executive or whatever plays any part in this movie really at all. The way that this movie could have differentiated itself from all the other ones is if like halfway through or near the end, whatever, Massimo realized that like, oh, you know, Laura's actually, she's really good at business too, and she can actually help out, and then, you know, they kind of team up together, and then Laura realizes what he's doing, what's really going on, and then she kind of gets more of a look behind the scenes. But what happens in this movie is like Laura's entire persona, backstory, everything is like thrown out. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell so you don't miss any videos from me. Follow me on Twitter, tweet me, whatever you want. I don't know, just whatever you feel like, I guess. And above all else, everybody have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.